is Joshua Reeves, and welcome to MTV APHG, where we cover all things human geography. Today we will be covering the subject of ethnicity.
Hi, my name is Veronica, and my ethnic identity is Hispanic American.
My name is Joshua Reeves, and my ethnic identity is African American.
My name is Dylan Fedreisen, and my ethnic identity is also Hispanic American.
My name is Maria Villar, and my ethnicity is also Hispanic American.
More specifically, I'm going to be talking about what is ethnicity and the nationalism behind it.
I will be talking about the geography of ethnicity and the migration of different ethnic groups.
I'm going to be talking about ethnic identity and ethnic groups and segregation in those groups.
I'll be talking about diversity, new cultural influences, and ethnic cleansing.
So, what is ethnicity? Ethnicity is a concept that is often confused with culture, and although it does have aspects of it, it also includes many other ideas. Ethnicity is based on how people choose to identify themselves, and factors such as their culture traits or common history, race, and religion, along with place of origin, all tie into ethnicity. The idea behind ethnicity as an identity comes from the notion that people are closely bounded and even related in a certain place over time. The word ethnic comes from the ancient word ethos, meaning people or nation. More specifically, geographer Stuart Hall in 1995 explains where people share not only a culture but an ethnos, their belongingness or bindingness into a group and place, and their sense of cultural identity are very strongly defined. Hall makes it clear that ethnic identity is historically constructed like all cultural identities, and it is often considered natural because it implies ancient relations among a people over time. Nationality is an identity of people who share legal attachment and personal alliance to a particular country. Nationality and ethnicity are similar concepts in that membership in both is defined through shared cultural values. The American nationality identifies citizens of the United States, including those born in the country and those who have migrated from different ones. Ethnicity identifies groups with distinct ancestry and cultural traditions, such as African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Chinese Americans, or Polish Americans. Politicians and governments try to instill loyalty through nationalism, which is loyalty and devotion to a nationality. Nationalism typically promotes a sense of national consensus that exalts one nation above all others and emphasizes its cultural and interests as opposed to those of other nations. It is an important example of centripetal force, which is an attitude that tends to unify people and enhance support for a state. People support nationalism by supporting a state that enhances the same cultural and attitudes of their nationality. States foster nationalism by promoting symbols and the nation state, such as flags and songs. After the fall of communism, one of the first acts in a number of Eastern European countries was to redesign their flags without the previous hammer and sickle in a field of red that was in support of the communistic beliefs. Nationalism is also instilled through the creation of songs extolling countries' virtues. Nearly every state has a national anthem, which usually combines respect for the state with references to the nation's significant historic events or symbols of unity.
Ethnic groups move in and out of neighborhoods and create new cultural imprints on the landscape in a process geographers call sequent occupants. For example, in New York City, the neighborhood of Harlem has been home to many ethnic groups, such as Jews from Eastern Europe in the late 1800s, African Americans from the southern United States in the 1910s, and Puerto Ricans in the 20th century. As a result of sequent occupants, Harlem's cultural landscape includes former Jewish synagogues, public spaces named for African American leaders, such as Marcus Garvey Park, and street names honoring Puerto Rican leaders, such as Luis Muñoz Merrick Boulevard. Another example is the Pilsen neighborhood in Chicago, which is heavily Hispanic today. This is called barrioization and is defined by geographer James Curtis as a dramatic increase in Hispanic population in a given neighborhood. All of these are examples of ethnic cultural influences. Throughout history, ethnic groups have been forced to flee from other ethnic groups' more powerful armies. After World War II had ended, millions of ethnic Germans, Poles, Russians, and other groups were forced to migrate as a result of boundary changes. For example, when a portion of Eastern Germany became part of Poland, the Germans living in the region were forced to move west to Germany, and Poles were allowed to move into the area. Similarly, Poles were forced to move when the eastern portion of Poland was turned over to the Soviet Union. The scale of forced migration during this time period has not been repeated, but in the 1900s, the term ethnic cleansing was created to describe new practices by ethnic groups against other ethnic groups. Ethnic cleansing is a process in which a more powerful ethnic group forcibly removes a less powerful one in order to create an ethnically homogeneous region. The point of ethnic cleansing is not simply to defeat an enemy or to subjugate them, but to rid an entire area of an entire ethnicity. In other words, ethnic cleansing involves the removal of every member of a less powerful ethnicity. Another example of ethnic cleansing is the deportation by German Nazis of millions of Jews, Gypsies, and other ethnic groups to the infamous concentration camps where they eliminated most of them.
The geography of ethnicity is a subject that focuses on the distribution of certain ethnic groups and the mechanisms that contribute to these distributions. Ethnic clusters can be observed on a local level, a national level, and an international level. For starters, what are the different types of ethnic clusters? Well, number one, we have ethnic neighborhoods. Now, this is a place within a larger suburb that has a large concentration of people of one ethnicity, for example, Chinatown in New York or Little Haiti in Miami. Next, we have ethnic islands. Ethnic islands are similar to ethnic neighborhoods in that they have a large concentration of people of one ethnicity, but the difference is ethnic islands are in rural areas as opposed to urban areas. For example, Pella, Iowa, which has a large concentration of Dutch immigrants, but is in a rural area. Next, we have ethnic provinces. These are large areas represented by physical boundaries which have a large concentration of one ethnic group. For example, if one state in the United States was filled to the brim with a lot of people of one ethnicity. For example, French Quebec, which is an area that is separated by political boundaries, but also has boundaries as far as ethnicity because there are a lot of people of one certain ethnic group in that area. Ethnic provinces also have a strong correlation with political conflict. Continuing the example of French Quebec, the French population in Canada has proposed secession from the country multiple times. However, they all cluster into one place because they all have similar beliefs. Next, we have ghettos. Ghettos are similar to ethnic neighborhoods. However, ghettos are different because they are typically filled with an ethnicity that is under segregation and is not allowed to be with the general public. For example, blacks in Milwaukee, who all live in the same area. Scientists use statistical measures to find out which areas segregation is the greatest in. One such measurement is the index of dissimilarity. The index of dissimilarity measures how isolated two ethnic groups are from each other. For example, blacks and whites in Milwaukee. Scientists had to use statistical measures to determine how isolated the two ethnic groups were to decide that Milwaukee is the most segregated city in the United States. Continuing the topic of ethnic clusters, there is also a lot of group migration associated with different ethnicities. For example, the succession of different areas based on ethnicity. One example of succession is the Lower East Side of New York City. This area was first occupied by Jews, then Germans moved in, pushing the Jews out, and then Italians moved in, pushing the Germans out. As you can see, one ethnic group moves out of an area as another ethnic group moves in. Another form of group ethnic migration is also what causes a lot of ethnic clusters that we talked about previously. One such example is cluster migration, in which a lot of people of one ethnicity will migrate to one specific area, causing an ethnic cluster, which can turn into an ethnic neighborhood, ethnic province, and etc.
Ethnic identity refers to a person's social identity within a larger context based on membership in a cultural or social group. Ethnic identity is immutable. It cannot be denied or suppressed, but it cannot be changed. It's not like a language people speak or a practice they can choose to take in different religions. Ethnic identity depends on the ethnicity of our parents. If both parents come from two ethnic groups and grandparents from four, then our ethnic identity is going to be extremely diluted. But again, it never completely dissipates. Ethnic identity relates to group's identity also, and there are many groups out there. Ethnic group is a community or population made up of people who share a common cultural background or descent. Differentiating ethnicity and race, there are three prominent groups: Asian American, African American, and Hispanic American. There are many groups like these present in the U.S. distribution of ethnicities. In the U.S., a lot of groups cluster in specific regions. Clustering of ethnicities in particular area like regions, states, and cities. African Americans are mostly located in the Southeast, Hispanics in the Southwest, Asian Americans in the West, and American Indians in the Southwest and Plain States. Some examples are that in the U.S., Hispanics are heavily clustered in the far southwestern states of Arizona, California, New Mexico, and Texas. About 11 states have fewer than 1% Hispanic, mostly in the southeast except Florida. African Americans comprise at least 1/4 of the population in Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, and South Carolina, and more than 1/3 in the Mississippi. African Americans make up about 4/5 of the population in the city of Detroit. In fact, about half of African Americans live primarily in cities, and 1/4 of Americans live in cities. So you can see the big cluster of African Americans in cities there. One reason for these ethnicities to be clustered in regions was because of big pull factors back then in America when jobs were interesting. People from ethnicity came to America to have a better life.
Now that we've finished with the actual lesson part of this video, we would like to continue with some questions from Kahoot that we found online.
Why are there large distributions of Africans in the U.S., Caribbean, and South America? A. Chain migration. B. Forced migration. C. Interregional migration. Or D. Environmental pull factors. The answer is B. Forced migration. An ethnicity can be comprised of people of different races. A. True. B. False. The answer is A. True.
What is ethnic identity affected by? A. Sense of place. B. Scale and place. C. Space. D. Power relationships. The answer is B. Scale and place. What is an example of ethnic cleansing? A. The expulsion of Germans from Poland and Czechoslovakia after World War II. B. Nazi Holocaust of European Jews. C. The Soviet Union's deportation of certain ethnic minorities. Or D. All of the above. The answer is D. All of the above.
The following group is classified as a dominant group in the current American society. A. European Americans. B. African Americans. C. Asian Americans. Or D. Latinos/Hispanics. The answer is A. European Americans.
What is barrierization? A. The dramatic decrease in the Hispanic population. B. The homeland of ethnic groups. C. The dramatic increase in the Hispanic population in a given neighborhood. D. Beliefs of an ethnic group that their ethnicity is superior. The answer is C. The dramatic increase in the Hispanic population in a given neighborhood. What is ethnocentrism? A. Beliefs of an ethnic group that their ethnicity is superior. B. An area within a city containing members of the same ethnic background. C. A group of people who share a common national, cultural, or racial background. Or D. None of the above. The answer is A. Beliefs of an ethnic group that their ethnicity is superior.
What is the difference between race and ethnicity? A. Nothing. Race and ethnicity are the same concept. B. Race is the nationality of the individual, while ethnicity is their culture. C. Ethnicity is defined by a person's biological characteristics, and culture, race. C. Ethnicity is defined by a person's biological characteristics and culture. Race is influenced by historical social experiences. Or D. None of the above. The answer is C. Ethnicity is defined by a person's biological characteristics and culture. Race is influenced by historical social experiences.